Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for a lower body day, and I started the day off with a deadlift, and I ended up having a really good workout, pushed everything hard, went up on weights on some stuff. But the deadlifting, as I went to ramp up, it just didn't feel great, and I'm like, you know what, I don't have to do even that heavy of a pull. Basically a 500-pound pull is all I have to do. And kind of something I've realized with my overall goals, even for training maxes, it's probably not necessary for me to ever deadlift more than 550, squat more than 450, bench more than 350 in my gym. Like, it's just not necessary. Even if I'm going to go to meets and lift heavier later, those sort of training maxes would actually be enough. But yeah, my last training max, I pulled 545, and it was very easy. The 495 today felt about the same, which is why I'm like, why am I going to bother to go up? I got a heavy pull in. We're still training the neural drive, and then I jumped right into my hypertrophy work. So my standard rotation, as you guys know here, is to do glute ham raise, belt squat, standing calf raise in a tri-set, right? Big superset, and then repeat it. And a lot of people have asked on that. They're like, do you just do them with no breaks in between? Well, exercise to exercise, yes, for each setup, but then I take a break after the rotation each time. Why? Because I do this to save time. It also does help keep heart rate and stuff up because you're doing 3 high rep sets of lower body stuff. So it is good on the conditioning end, but really it's a time saver. It lets me do what we know works. What is the research generally shown? Longer breaks, if they let you replicate your performance, tend to produce a little more muscle growth. Okay? So by doing it in this manner, it lets me take 5 minutes or so between working the same muscles again. So even though the exercises themselves are close, I only have to do a glute ham raise every 5-6 minutes if I want. And really, this keeps the workouts under an hour. It lets me take long breaks, get 10 to 15 sets of muscle group a week, and keep my workouts within an hour. Upper body days can be a little longer because I do all the arm stuff at the end, right, which actually adds to it. All the pushing and pulling would tend to be about the same as the lower body days. But then because I do arms, 3 sets biceps, 3 sets triceps right now, it ends up adding extra time because I do the same sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, this whole workout took, an hour tops, right? Again, this works. It's good time management, and that's one of the big perks with opposing muscle groups, right? We can keep our workouts fairly short while still getting good amounts of volume. But here's what I'm going to do for everything. My main goal is to just get at least 10 sets of muscle group every week, some of the more dominant ones, and then obviously some of them are getting about 12. But then my weak links get more work, which basically means arms. I don't know if we want to count calves here too, because they're not a weak link, because again, as I've pointed out, the belt squats and glute ham raises technically do work calves, and I think they work them enough for them to grow, honestly. But I am doing the 3 sets of calf raises because I want to go ahead and blow my calves up, since I'm going to push arms super hard. And when I started doing the calves a little while back, my arms and my calves measured the same measurement. And if I'm going to push arms as the biggest priority, I do want to make sure the calves stay caught up, because that is kind of what you're looking for a balance. But really the goals are to get leaner and to build bigger arms. That is really where my efforts need to be. We'll tighten up the waistline further, which again, getting leaner will tighten up the loose skin more. But the calf raises, I went up on the weight. I'm like, you know what? I always see people say silly stuff like, oh, calves need really high reps. Really, I did really high rep stuff. I can't say that they got any better pump or work than stuff like this, doing even 8 to 10. But here's the thing. I don't buy into that logic, because the logic is nonsense. Because we walk on them and they're used to high volume, that we should train them with high volume. I'll ask you guys a simple question. If that was really true and that's what they responded to, then why doesn't everyone who walks have massive calves? Just throwing that out there. But we know that calves are like every other muscle. This is what the research shows, right? Genetics and stuff do matter. But here's the other thing. The people who get big calves from walking around, it's usually not the upper threshold fibers. They've actually grown all those slower twitch and intermediate fibers more. I would make the case that going pretty heavy and trying to get a stretch on them probably works better. Okay? Just going to throw that out there. It's something I figured out when I did used to train my calves over 20 years ago for a while. Mine responded really well to just going as heavy as I could. So I've just kind of built that weight up. And yeah, so those sets of 8, I mean, they're obviously borderline too heavy. But I mean, 415 on the bar, doing some sets of 8. Right? Felt pretty good. I bet my calves will keep growing from it. Now, then again, because of my calf genetics, I can probably get away with whatever I want, to be honest. So really, whatever's fun and feels good. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did. I'm like, but I'm kind of pushing that of everything. I want more and more tension while trying to keep reps 6+ on everything. Like some of my upper body stuff, I'm dropping as low as 6. Some of the pressing, the weighted chins, some of the bench reps. But again, we're trying to push progressive overload, push tension, keep volumes more moderate towards the low end of the optimal range, which is 10 to 20 sets. Right? So we're doing 10 to 12, and then arms getting a little bit more, right? Arms we're doing closer to about 15, 16 because they need the most work. And I don't know how calves fit into that. We could argue I'm already doing 12 sets for calves before the calf raises. Who knows? So I guess they're going to get more love too. Same thing with this stuff. I'm like, these things are getting too easy. And the problem is, people are like, can't you just be stricter, or whatever? And I can't, no, because then I got to do 50 reps. I don't want to do 50 rep leg extensions. So yeah, I went up to 400 pounds on this today, and I still got over 20 reps on every single set before I hit failure. But then the same thing when I went over to the reverse hypers, I ended up doing 15+ on everything. But it felt good. And so I'm probably just going to keep ramping this up, keeping in mind, I was using the other reverse hyper. This one's, I feel, a little more difficult with heavyweight. When I was deadlifting the biggest weights, if you guys remember, I was doing 600 and 700 pounds on the reverse hyper. Now, granted, a fair amount of swing, but does it matter? That's the real question. It's the real question. Does it really matter? So I could see myself going up to 500+ again here. And I feel like just because of the nature of the leg extensions on here, and again, for people who give advice on, well, I would try this different. Have you used a full-size reverse hyper? Now, if you've used one and you've got experience doing all these things and filming yourself so that you see how much swing you have, by all means, discuss it. But I always point out to people, who do occasionally give advice on this, I'm like, have you used one that follows the pattern that has roller bearings on it? I'm like, no. Have you filmed yourself while doing it? Because here's the thing. Like when you watch the amount of swing that's happening on a reverse hyper on one of these, when you feel zero swing, like you feel that you have full perfect control of it, it's going to look like mine look. When you film it, you're going to be like, oh. So how do you get any stricter than feeling as strict as you possibly can? Well, you can't. But that has been the situation that I've noticed. And again, it's the nature of the device. And I'm noticing that does carry over to the leg extensions on it too. Now, all of that aside, am I seeing mechanical tension overload? Yes. Am I progressing on it? Yes. Do I feel it working the target muscles? Yes. Then that's what matters. Are my legs getting bigger again? I think my quads are starting to look bigger again. So the question I would always ask when we start asking questions about form, here's the thing. Are you able to progress using that form? Okay. Are you working the muscle through a respectable range of motion? Does the muscle appear to be getting bigger over time? Okay. And do you have any pain or inflammation from it? Those are your 4 questions to ask. And if you're checking all those boxes, then it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks about a form or what you think about it. And always keep that in mind, guys. always keep that in mind. But yeah, these feel really good. The lower half of the quad is what I really feel, that whole teardrop area as I'm doing these. And I feel like with what I'm doing here with this, it's getting a little bit of a good stretch at the bottom. So as they stretch, like I'm really feeling that. So again, my quads are growing. They're coming back. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. All right. But because of the nature of this machine, that's probably going to be, more loading, more progression on it. And that's okay. It's just the annoyance of loading the plates or not. But again, I got good results when I went crazy heavy on the reverse hypers, even on this too. Right? Even when I had a lot of swing with 700 pounds, my 600 plus pound deadlift felt really easy. So I feel like this is one of those tools that absolutely will build your deadlift even when you go really heavy. And even Clint Darden told me that years ago, right? He's like, oh yeah, you need to be repping 500 for sets of 25. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.